Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live chat. I appreciate it. Today, what I want to do is focus on the spring cleaning which occurred in June back then, to do with James Brenner going into the grain shed, moving the grain truck out and not parking it back, and then tidying up inside, supposedly getting 4 to 8 bin bags full of items, taking them out of the shed, putting them on the back of his truck, and then them being disposed of at some point. It's trying to understand why Brenner was allowed to do that. Why did the LE just stand there and let it happen? You know, if it's technically a crime scene and Brenner is one of the suspects at the time, then you shouldn't be allowed to touch things, and yet he was. So there's a bit of recklessness there, lack of professionalism too. The next question is, what's within those bin bags? Is it actually rubbish or not? From what Candice Cooley has said, it's hard to believe due to the rubbish that still remains inside of the shed. More of that can be explained shortly with photos, okay? So it could well be items of Dylan, or in a darker way of speaking, it could be remains of Dylan. Now, the next question, where did those bin bags go? Well, from what Candice said, there's a possibility that with Don and Jim going down to Wendover around that time frame, possibility that they might have taken the bin bags down to there to dump and dispose. We can take a little look at that later on in this video, check Wendover out, see if there's any locations, tips, rubbish drop-offs, all that type of stuff, okay? Another way of looking at it, internalising it, would be from Ty's and Lance's discovery just recently this week, whilst out in Montello, Nevada once again, in a mountainous region closer to the Utah border, whilst exploring and searching for mines and shafts, Lance, when driving on a dirt road, ended up catching a glimpse of a bin bag which was by the roadside under a tree. Upon further inspection, when opening it, it was double bagged, first of all. It was in a black bin bag, bit of a coincidence, and what was found inside? Bones. Not enough bones to form a complete human skeleton, let's just say, but there was a range of different bones and shapes where it would come from, possibly the leg area, the shoulder, and stuff like that. There were maggots on some of the bones, and there was kind of like remains, bits of flesh still remaining on the bones. So you could argue it is somewhat fresh. So could that even apply to Dylan in the first place? Would there be less remains? You know what I'm saying? The next thing you got to ask is, well, where's the rest, right? If there's not enough bones to form a full human skeleton, then it can't be Dylan. It can't be a human. But it's that idea of, is there a possibility that that is just one bin bag? If there's about 8 of them and one's been dumped here, where are the other 7? You see? That's what you've got to understand. There might be 7 more scattered about, spread out, who knows? In terms of them just being left there, no attempt to bury them, hide them, you could put that argument forward. But we must understand, look at Brenner with Dylan's boots, just putting them out there near the dirt mound, like that. Not even making an attempt to hide them, just simply leaving them in plain open sight. If he's known to do it then, he could do it with the bin bags. You never know. Though, what we need to consider, there is that argument where people are saying it's animal bones, the way they look, the size of them. I can understand that. When it came to the Kenny Veach case, we had a few bone situations where certain private search and rescues and even lone explorers came across bones, but most of the time, if not all the time, they were of animal remains, and that was it. It's to be expected. It's a desert. There's a wide range of wildlife. There are certain dangerous wildlife out there too, which could be responsible for spreading bones, right? That's what we've got to understand. When it comes to Montello, Nevada, desert terrain again, some form of wildlife. I don't know to what extent of wildlife is present there, but it could still be the same, animals, right? With it being in a bin bag though, most likely a human was responsible for disposing of it, chucking it as a drive-by, just dumping it. That's most likely the case. Who's the one responsible? It's unknown of. You could even argue someone was eating food, having a barbecue at some point, and then the leftovers and remains were put in that bag and dumped in the desert. That's one way of looking at it. Candice Cooley also said in the most recent interview by the Mob Crew, Chris's channel, Candy said she was kind of criticising Ty and Lance for how they handled the bones. If you truly believe it's a human, then why are you reaching out online asking for assistance and help? It's very amateur, what she said. You should be calling the law enforcement, getting the police down, and so on. And I believe that did happen, that the LE did get a hold of the bones eventually. But in terms of reporting it, it was a bit unprofessional, the way people are wording it. In my opinion, I'd say it's a very awkward, messy situation. Sure, you found bones. Part of you's thinking it could be Dylan, or it could be an animal. Yes, we do need to report it to someone, but maybe there's a reluctancy. I really don't know. There could be a reluctancy if they don't trust the LE. That's it. That's just only one way of looking at it. I mean, it would make sense. If you actually found some remains, or it just seems likely that it is remains of a human, normally your first thing is, right, we've got to call the authorities. But if you've had bad experiences, or you've heard of bad experiences of other people towards the LE, it might make you question, it might make you think, I don't know if it's got anything to do with Lance's experience in the past when it came to Brenner's burnt down trailer when trying to report it to the LE then, hammering it home, you need to come down here, you need to come, and it was delayed. It might be a lack of, trust within the LE, and that's all understandable. Though, you put all that shit aside, at the end of the day, the LE got a hold of the bones. I truly don't know the end result of those bones, whether they were human or animal. Candice Cooley, I think, said that they are animal. It wouldn't surprise me, just how I explained earlier on in this video clip, right? But you put all that aside, it's like a situation of how Brenner could have disposed of those items. Just the simple fact that there's bones, there's a black bin bag. I've not really seen any other black bin bags in all these other searches beforehand. We've seen scrap metal, we've seen bits and bobs, rocks, lawnmowers, cars, wheels, anything and all that type of stuff just scattered about, dumped. But actual black bin bags, double wrapped, not really seen beforehand from my experience, okay? And because it kind of ties in with Brenner's spring cleaning, you can associate things together. You know, it's normal for the mind to do that. So what we need to transition on to now is the actual grain shed. I want to show you it visually inside, what it looks like. Mention some other key points like the hole in the ground, which is another weird thing that stands out, okay? We'll talk about that briefly. Then we'll transition on to Candice Cooley's idea of going down to Wendover, Jim and Don, okay? Let's transition over now. Right, so as you can see, this is one of the latest photos of the grain shed by Fox News. This is more to do with the time recently when Heavy D, the Diesel Brothers, came to Candice Cooley and Justin to do the drone search. So this is quite new. You get an idea of the outside. The actual grain truck at the time back then in June supposedly was in the grain shed and then it was pulled out, which I believe you do see in the original video of Heavy D's flyby when he's flying over the area, searching the land, seeing if there's any clues, okay? Now, that aside, we get inside of the shed. Now, this actual photo was taken maybe 2 months ago, roughly speaking, by Salty Pancakes, okay? It's also further reinforced by another channel, I think it's called True Crime Utah, who allowed me to potentially use footage for analysis down the line, so credit to them at some point. I just wanted to use this photo though, which I have used previously because it's clear, it's precise, and you get a wide angle of everything within. So, arguably speaking, it may have been a little bit more cluttered beforehand, okay, way back in June, compared to this photo, which is bit more modern onwards, right? But, you know, you get the idea of the depth, first of all. The depth of the shed. It's not massive. It's arguably enough to be able to store the seed without it getting wet. Part of the truck supposedly stuck out because it couldn't be fitted in all the way. It's understandable. The actual roof is as well corrugated sheeting. It looks well built, I'd say. It looks reasonable. Inside there, it's very dusty, but there's no door on the front, so it's not going to prevent it. It's all going to come in, just like with Dylan's trailer, as you saw. If we do move on to this slide, which is on the left-hand side, a bit further in, you notice a couple of things. As said, you do have some hay, straw down there. That can now be explained with what we've recently heard about with Brenner's horse. From what Candice Cooley additionally said, Brenner's horse wasn't the type for riding on. You wouldn't ride it. It was just there with him. And on a few occasions, or on, no, more so speaking, on one occasion, the horse did go loose and run off. And because some individual left the gate open, it was able to escape. So Brenner was not happy with that, which led to him making sure that the gate was locked at all times from there on, and also beforehand, and I believe changing the lock on the gate too. So that makes sense to why the gate's there and the fencing, more for the horse, to keep it from going loose. Understandable. As well, in some of the locations within the footage, as we've previously seen, there is the odd saddle, and there is also one of those what you'd put a saddle on as well, if I'm correct in saying. So that all ties in with the whole horse situation. Though it's not as relevant now because it's moved on, right? Whether it being Kurt Wadsworth's possession now or sold on after that, it is what it is. Now, time back to the spring cleaning. Brenner would have walked into here, the grain truck mainly taking up most of the room. He got inside of it, drove it out so it was on the outside of here, walked back in, and then started clearing up stuff. Who knows where the rubbish was? Who knows if it was evidence or not? Was it in this corner over here, tucked away, hidden behind the buckets, the objects? Was it deeper in the corner over there near that little workshop workbench behind that box, possibly? Or was it down here where that little dirt mound is and hole. You never know. As for pure rubbish, Candice Cooley said when they went in afterwards, after the spring cleaning, there was still visible trash all over the place, as you can see here. Beside the hay and straw being there, low down on the ground, you notice a range of different cans, beer cans. So it reinforces that idea of Brenner, possibly being some form of alcoholic, hence why you see him in a different way now with him being in jail, because possibly of withdrawal from alcohol. It can have both physical and psychological effects on you, side effects, right? That aside though, with this rubbish clearly showing on here and possibly elsewhere too back then, it rules out that idea of Brenner spring cleaning, because if he really was getting rid of rubbish, he would have moved this as well. Unless there was an extreme amount of rubbish and you could only move so much, I doubt it, right? So there must be a deeper reason behind it. Maybe some people disagree, that's okay, you can leave a comment down below. But for some reason, I just think those bin bags could well be remains of Dylan, or even clothing of Dylan, right? If Brenner didn't have enough time to dispose of Dylan, or he felt he was, in a way, underestimating the presence of the police, the presence of search and rescue and the family remaining there longer term. So he felt, right, I need to get rid of it now because I didn't think this was going to continue on this long, and I need to get rid of it so it doesn't tie back to me, right? That's one possibility. This location here, just so you know, is basically, as said, that down there. There's a hole just in front of that little dirt mound. Further back, there is like a spade or a shovel behind those white seed or grain bags. Possibly that may have been used to dig the hole. If any of you know, make sure to leave a comment down below to clear up any confusion. When I look at this hole, it's not exactly deep, right? But also, no attempt was made to fill it back in. Why is that? Why? Was it the FBI or the police ended up digging something up to check for something, maybe? Or was it Brenner with the whole spring cleaning? I'm not quite sure. I just wanted to refer back to this shallow hole, just in case anyone had any updated answers, right? So if you know, leave a comment down below, it will be appreciated. All I will say is, it's not exactly deep, the radius isn't exactly big, so it's not like Dylan was buried in that hole, it's too small. If it was a bit of clothing, a gun possibly, temporarily buried there, then that's one way of looking at it. But for some reason, something is telling me, from a previous comment I heard, it was the FBI responsible for digging up this hole. I don't know if it was for water drainage, I don't know if it was looking for pipes underground, or they had some kind of tip-off, or something was out of the ordinary, so they had to dig it up just to check. I'm not sure. I don't know everything. I'm not perfect. Sounds like an odd line to be using there, but I think humans need to realise we all know bits of information, but we may not know everything all. Though when you combine each person together, then it can build that pyramid of information, right? I wouldn't be surprised if some humans have no clue what I'm talking about, but never mind. So, with all that in mind, what we need to do now is move on to Candice Cooley's response about where Brenner was around about the same time as the spring cleaning with Don Hatley. Don Hatley being a long-time friend with Brenner, it makes sense for them to be hanging out, right? Is there a possibility that they may have shared information between each other, that Brenner said to Don what he was going to do, or afterwards asking Don Hatley for a favour, such as being taken down to Wendover or just coming with him as some form of assistance, possibly. Let's head on over to Google Earth now just to see what is present in Wendover, if anything odd stands out. So here we are on the maps, nothing fancy, nothing flashy. We just zoom on in, we try and depict how things could have gone down and even the routes to get to Wendover, because we know from what Candy said that Brenner was really the only one that took the back roads. If it is facing south down that way, then most likely Brenner went that way, possibly. Right, so if we're looking in this direction, the LE, don't know how many there are in numbers, are scattered about within the area, although it's not officially a crime scene then, and even now technically it is, if you get what I'm saying, because this is where it all supposedly went down, the evidence and all that. Though if evidence has been shifted and moved, then it's like, well, it needs to be tracked down, right? It's okay doing all these drone searches within the area, but if those bin bags contained the remains of Dylan chopped up, if you're trying to reinforce it with what those spirit box sessions suggested, maybe those drones need to be sent elsewhere. But I guess with patience and time, it's still worth using the drones in this key area. And then after, I wait and see what happens next. So let's go to the day of the spring cleaning, okay? I'm not going to give the exact date because I can't remember at this moment in time. If I do give a date and it's wrong, I will be crucified. So, damage limitation, number 1. So, Brenner comes out the grain shed on the day of spring cleaning. Him maybe being by himself at the time, taking those bin bags back near to his trailer, possibly if it was still present at the time, putting those bin bags into the back of his truck or in the passenger seat, wherever, on the truck. That was reported by Candice Cooley. And then, whether it be on the same exact date or shortly afterwards, got Don Hatley down, they met up, got into the vehicle and then went down to Wendover. It could well be innocent. They may have just gone to Wendover for supplies, maybe to get a drink, maybe just to hang out. But is there a possibility, though, that those bin bags are in the vehicle as they're driving down? Because if so, they might dispose of them. Hell, who's to say they're disposed directly in Wendover? It might have just been along the way. Because, as said, if you look over that way, over those mountains, and you've got the odd bin bag scattered there, who knows, it could be some kind of like treasure trail hunt, in a way. You know, you spread items out, it kind of confuses the situation. It makes it harder, right? So, driving down this way, if it is the back roads, going through the gate, because obviously they do have access, coming all the way down, as you would have seen before, mentioned in previous videos, going to Wendover. Possibly Dylan Rounds even took this route as well if he went to Wendover at some point, right? Taking a right here, if it is still a dirt road, you can kind of make out the track marks, right? It's one of those things. We just zoom on out, okay. You get over here. You see that dirt road connecting? Coming from all the way down there to this point. Turning right, and then basically being in parallel to that dried up lake there. And opposite it is Graham Peak. Now I do remember a Graham somewhere in the case, but he's irrelevant. We come down this way, okay. You've got Gotchute Peak in the distance, right? Still in Utah. At some point turns off right. Could be here. Near Pilot Creek Valley. Follows the road as you see the white line. Eventually approaching the 80 highway from the looks of it. Eventually connects on at some point, drives down, and then goes into the valley almost of Wendover down here. As you can see, what is present here, that's what we've got to try and understand. First of all, let's see if there are any viewpoints. We might as well do the 360 sphere photos just to get an idea of the area. Okay. If there are any present, Leppy Peak, Let's try and get a vantage point if possible in the area. Okay. We've got a couple there. Bear in mind, I might have clicked on one of these previous. We'll see. Volcano Peak. That's somewhat interesting, the name of that. Let's take a little look at this area. Good. I'm glad. It's clean, it's clear. You get an idea of the valley. You get the idea of the mountains. A peak is a good spot to scout. Let it load in slowly, just so you get an idea. Obviously vast and somewhat desolate. Now, where is Wendover, though? Most likely down there, if I'm correct in saying. I can't quite see any other buildings present, right? So you get the idea. We've been so vast and open. The idea of dumping a bin bag, if it was similar to how the one was found by Ty and Lance, wouldn't it be very noticeable? Wouldn't it? You know, it's very open. It's not going to be somewhere up here because of it being mountainous and it's not cut out for them. But you think on lower ground and you look at the area, it's very smooth. Well, somewhat smooth. There's not lots of dense vegetation. Whereas in comparison to Montello, Nevada, the mountainous region, there's quite a few trees. So it can be concealed slightly better, right? The comparison of being reckless and careless, chucking something away in Montello, Nevada, where all the trees are at. You got better chances of concealing that without trying, compared to the likes of an area like this, or even near the grain shed in Lucin, how the boots were just chucked near the dirt mound. You know, chucking them like that, they were found fairly easily, right? I mean, in terms of Lance's situation, he might just have a good eye at the time, or he was looking in the right place, right time. Most people wouldn't have noticed that bin bag as easily compared to an area if it was dumped here. So do you agree that if Don and Jim was down here in Wendover at the time with the bin bags, would they have just dumped them by the side of the road, or would they have made an attempt to conceal them better? Or would it just not be practical whatsoever due to how vast and open it is, both higher ground and lower ground, not enough vegetation? Let me know your thoughts down below, okay? I think we should try and get to a lower ground setting just to get a better idea. I think the other thing what we need to consider is whilst we were looking at it somewhere down here, it looked sparse. But further back this way, there's a few more buildings, though it's concealed by the mountainous region there, which was limited to our range over that way. Wendover viewpoint. I think I did check that already, but I don't know if I did a 360 of it. Let's just take a little look. Here you go. Very good. Here we go. So we're on arguably one of the peaks. You get a good viewpoint. Lower down that way, you've got the highway, the 80 highway, which goes off in the distance, right? I believe Don and Jim would have gone down that at some point and then come up this way into Wendover. You've got Wendover and West Wendover. I think a part of Wendover is on the Nevada side of the border, and the other part is on the Utah side, if I'm correct in saying. As you look at the buildings around, it looks like some residential places. There's bits of farmland as well. Might be the odd pivot. You've got the airport as well. You've got a few commercial places, gas stations, some motels too. There's other interpretations, like other possible unanswered questions of how long did Don and Jim spend in Wendover on that day? Were they there just for a few hours, or did they stop there the night? Was it a long day or not? You know, did they make any other journeys to there in between from there on after or not? If any of you know, feel free to ask, answer, whatever question, right? So you get the idea of what it looks like visually from different angles and perspectives. I think what we need to type in now, and it depends how it is internalized, right? So let's just refine the search Rubbish tip near Wendover, Utah. Right, so we've got a Clean Harbours Environmental, as you see here, and it's within Wendover. Now, could this be a place they went to? Possibly. I mean, you got to take into mind it most likely is a location which doesn't check for items, right? You know, just like with the whole gun range and buying of guns, which was probably out of the ordinary for the likes of Don and Jim and wouldn't happen, you know, wherever those bin bags are, they would have been taken most likely to a place which don't inspect them. There's no questioning, there's no searching through them, because you know, if there was someone searching through the bags before them being thrown away, then maybe something would be called up. But then again, it could be arguably one of those other things where the bones are separated in several different bags. A small chance that they could get away with it. Okay, we've got to think practical, right? I do understand that the bin bags may have just been dumped anywhere in the desert. They might have even been buried, possibly, somewhere. But it's just trying to make sense, because the way Candice Cooley worded it was as a possibility that they went to Wendover with the bin bags. So I'm trying to understand, is there any practical locations where you would take them? And logically thinking, you may think of a tip. But understandably, if it's a place where they are monitored, they're checked, there's cameras, there's some kind of record, anything that involves questioning, you probably would avoid that, right? Because you're disposing of some important evidence and serious matter, right? Looking at this place, I don't know if it truly is a place you can visit and dispose of when looking at it here. Will it let me click on it or not? No, it doesn't seem to be the case. Can I just call it a tip? This is the thing, when it comes to... Oh, is this the only one? Yeah, there's only one photo. That's a shame. Now, I don't know if Americans use other slang or other language for this type of stuff. Instead of rubbish, could it be trash, maybe? Trash? West Wendover Public Works. That doesn't seem to be it. The main thing is there doesn't seem to be any proper photos, right, of the area. That's a shame, that. You get the idea of what I'm attempting to do. Disposal, maybe? Let's see. Disposal. I don't know how you spell disposal. Clean Harbours Environmental Waste Management Services. It won't be that. Park City Conservation Association, Recyclable, Utah. Right, Park City. AC Recycling and Disposal. A1 Disposal. I mean, some of these probably won't be places where you can just publicly go to and just walk on in if it's actual companies. It might be more to do with where trucks will go out, pick up trash, etc., waste, go back to the base and then empty it that way. It probably is different compared to the UK, to the US, so I've got to take that in mind. Obviously, I can only think so much based on my own experiences, okay? Right. So really, there's not much going on in the area, right? Clean Harbours Environmental, nothing else showing up. Clean Harbours Facility, you know, it's a facility. It doesn't look like it's welcome. We have a quick look at the photo, just see. No, it's just wildlife. There you go, that's what the area looks like. But most likely the people that are parked up there are workers, so maybe it's limited. Okay, fair enough. Is there any other suggestions you have in the chat? Any other ways of wording it? Is there any other... What else could I type in? Let's just try something else, okay? I'm going to think outside of the box. Cave. Cave near Wendover. Danger Cave. Oh, it's a monument. That's a shame. Will it take me far away? I don't know. Right, where's this located? So you got West Wendover, Wendover, and then down here, Danger Cave, Heritage Place. Yeah, this is the problem. Some kind of tourist place is very unlikely for it to be there. Right. Okay. Final one. Mining company. No, we don't want that. It's disappointing, I'd say. Pilot Peak plant. Why is it coming up with that? Is there any photos of the area? Nope, no public photos, so obviously probably not a place for the public. Silver Hood Mine. What's this all about? Once again, no damn photos. I don't even think you'd be able to see it on there. Well, you've also got to take in mind, sometimes markers aren't even in the right place. Nothing else present. So, I'll just base... Oh, what's this? Dead Cedar Mine. A bit further out. No photos, like... Does no one visit the places, or what? Ferguson Mountain? Any pictures there? Only one, and that was 2018. It seems very limited, Wendover, right? We don't need to do motels because we've already looked at them in previous videos. I mean, if I just typed it in quickly, right? Which one was it anyway? It's hard to tell which one it was, the odd-looking one, right? Because one of them was very dodgy looking. We'll just go through them very quickly, okay? Because I just wanted to refer to something, right? Which was picked up on in the past. It's a bit of a piss take, right? Depends if I can find it, obviously. No, my luck, I probably won't. Super 8. It wasn't Super 8, was it? Motel 6. Ooh. Oops. Try Super 8. Was it this one? It'd be weird if I can't find it, but would it be really? It's just to do with that door where it looked like someone headbutted it. Get rid of that. Sharon Motel? The China one. Yeah, I know all about that bloody Chinatown one. I went on that one right, didn't I? No, that looks different to what I saw before. The hell? Right, never mind. Screw it. Looks like it's not going to come up. I don't know why it's not. That's just fucking typical. So, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that. Fuck off. Right. So you get the idea. Do you agree? Do you think that there is some kind of link between Don and Jim going down to Wendover to try and dispose of trash? And also, do you have a suggestion of a possible location those bin bags would be taken to if it was in Wendover? This is just all constructed roughly around what Candice has stated herself. If I had to give my own genuine opinion on the matter, I wouldn't be surprised if those bin bags are scattered about outer skirts of Lucin, maybe encroaching Montello, Nevada, possibly. I definitely think they are spread out though. By roadside, under a tree, buried in the ground, that I'm not quite sure of. Because based on Brenner's pattern of behaviour, it's hard to follow. We must understand that and not underestimate. Because Brenner could be considered an idiot. He could also be considered unstable. He could also be considered a little bit smart. He could also be considered as lazy but still capable of moving a 145, 150 pound male such as Dylan Rounds, as quoted by Candice Cooley, okay? So it depends how you interpret it yourself, right? If for whatever reason the bin bags are of remains, or at least clothing of Dylan, you must also consider that. Do you think it was buried in the ground or recklessly chucked somewhere like the boots? Let me know your thoughts down below. And I think, yeah, that wraps it up. Just wanted to refer back to the grain shed just to tell this story visually speaking as well, and share with you once again that hole in the ground in the grain shed, because it does stand out. When you look at the outer skirt area of the grain shed and the surrounding place, you probably wouldn't think or know that the LE have investigated the place. Nothing looks too dodgy, suspicious looking. Sure, there'll be certain items and vehicles removed, but if you never knew they were there, then you wouldn't know that it's been searched, the place, right? Arguably the same with Brenner's place of living, former place of living in Montello, his burnt down trailer. What I do want to say now, there was one comment of someone saying it's not called the grain shed, it's called the shed or something else. It might be, I don't know, but it's just what everyone else refers to it as. What you must understand, and when I say this, if it's an impetuous person watching right now, if it's an individual that has a very strong obsession with me, whatever it is, you look into my eyes and you listen very carefully, okay? When it comes to specific wording of locations, it could be called by its characteristics or what it's used for, the purpose of it, such as storing a grain truck at that time, at that moment, hence why it could be titled as that, the grain shed, okay? When it came to the M cave mystery, there were many M-shaped caves which had the same characteristics as described by Kenny Veach, hence why it was called M cave this, M cave that, right? When it came to the supposed covered up cave, even when people supposedly debunked it and said it's not a covered up cave, one refers to it as a covered up cave based on how it was described originally and the characteristics it shared from first time impressions. If you call it cave 1, cave 2, cave B, cave E, it's hard to differentiate from which one is which, right? You want quick, sharp, snappy names, titles like that, so you know exactly which one you're referring to next and when. Such as Kenny's mine shaft. It's not Kenny's, but it's the one he stood near. It's also the one the phone was found afterwards, right? When you fast forward. So that's why we refer to it as that. When it comes to the one exploring abandoned mines and unusual places, one of the largest mining channel exploration ones on YouTube. Credit to them, shout out to them who have supported my channel and watched some of my videos over time. They're a good individual. They've produced good videos, as well as getting involved with the Kenny Veach case, okay? Which was almost referred to as the Area 51 sign or the Area 51 M cave, because it had an Area 51 sign inside. Whether it was true, false, fake, planned, whatever, scripted, that's by its characteristics, because it's quicker to refer to. It's memorable, right? You need things to be memorable. So it's implanted, embedded into your mind. So whether it be consciously or subconsciously, you click on when it's referred to. If you just say shed, there are several sheds present, you plum. Okay? This is what I can't understand though. Candice Cooley and maybe some others along the way have referred to Brenner's burnt down place, his former place of living in Montello, as a shed. How can it be a shed when it's actually a trailer with wheels? I don't know if you call it an RV trailer or just simply a trailer. I'd assume an RV trailer possibly, right? It looks like it could be hooked onto something. It's got wheels too, so it's mobile. That's not a shed though, is it? A shed does not move. A shed is limited to what you can use it for, right? Unless it's typical Americans using dodgy language, just like how they would say soap is fairy liquid. You're not going to be using fairy liquid as soap literally to wash your body. No. Okay? So, let me know your thoughts to what you think about that. It's a trailer, not a shed in Montello. Okay? As for the grain shed in Lucin, or the shed, could you say it's a barn almost? Maybe. But we won't get too much into that because, as you know, humans will whinge and whine with specificness at certain things. So, hopefully that explains it all to you, okay? If you have any additional questions, if you have any grievances, if you have any suggestions, whatever it may be, feel free to list in the comment section down below. So last but not least, before we depart, one thing I want to share with you is the horse. Some, or if most, are confused, then that's just how it is. But to people that know, the horse is with me right now. So let's just conduct a very brief interview, okay? And just try and make sense of things. So here you go. Here is the horse, right? Bit on the large side, kind of big. Oh no, oh my God. Oh no. Which one is it? It's this one. His leg is falling off. That is unfortunate. It's probably that damn snake that wrapped itself around it, as we've heard. But nevertheless, before you get any ideas, okay? You see this thing up here? Yes, this. Do not get any ideas. These are not to be inserted anywhere, though if people do misbehave, there may be alternative arrangements, okay? Yeah. So, basically, let's just see how this horse is doing. So, hi there, you okay? Nod if you are. Well, that's good to know, right? Do you know much about this case? That's understandable. That's understandable. There's a lot to take in. There's a lot to, process. Have you ever been in contact, exposed to Brenner's horse before? Yeah? Did you get on well with Brenner's horse? Did you have fun? Whoa, calm down, calm down. Right, okay, so aside from all that, do you ultimately know anything important within the case? A suspect, person of interest, anyone? What? You're not going to talk? I'll have to talk to your lawyers? Well, that's typical, isn't it? Typical stubborn individual. Yeah, okay, calm down. So it looks like we're not going to get anywhere. I don't know why you're being like this. I mean, what do you want? You've been given apples, Excuse me. You will look at me when I'm talking to you, boy. Just like when I'm talking to you. Yeah. I hope you're looking. Because if you're not, I'm going to be a disappointed boy. So, behave. As I said, the way you're behaving is unnecessary, just like some of us. So with that in mind, I think you're better off going off on your own ways, just like how Brenner did with his horse, which means you're getting fucking departed, bitch. Exactly. So I think we'll leave it there, okay? Thanks for watching. If you have any additional points, as said, list down below. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.